Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship at thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. That is Revelation 3:9. 3 and 9 is 12. Maybe for the disciples, maybe for the discipline, maybe for the 12 tribes them. 1 and 2 is 3. Maybe for the Trinity, maybe for man, woman, and child, maybe for earth, sky, and spirit, maybe for Son, Father, and Spirit. The Bible, a true definition of a blessing and a curse. We should not dismiss any holy book, and I mean all of them. Hopefully, the divinity within you will cause you to decipher righteously. See, the Pharisees and the scribes, they control what we see. Pharisees and the scribes, they create the script. Behold, greetings, beloveds. Another one. So, I've been checking out Kyrie, and obviously there's a lot of Kanye West news going around. You know, in this little cycle, I feel like they're kind of tied at the hip for some reason. You know, it's like, first, Kyrie has been going through like a spiritual progression phase, and it's almost like he has to do that within the public eye, when really and truly that should be personal. You know, it's like nobody should have to apologize for truth, you know, and obviously nobody's perfect, so people should be allowed to grow. You know what I'm saying? If they become a detriment to themselves or others, then, you know, that's a different case, different steps. But you see, I always have to scratch my head when people act as if everybody outside of themselves has to be or have to be perfect, and that is never fair. You know, a lot of the things that Kanye speaks about, it's like it's commonplace, common knowledge. Everybody know these things, but you begin to realize why certain people are not given access to knowledge. You know, like at one point in the history of the Americas, they say that black people were not allowed to read. You know what I'm saying? So, and that in itself is kind of tricky, because I'm not sure what languages they spoke before they spoke English. So I'm not sure if they were not allowed to learn English, because I've heard that the early Greeks were melanated, and English originally is a language created by melanated people. You know, and then if we speak of the original man, a lot of words in a lot of different languages mean the same thing, or have the same resonance and sound frequency. So that is a whole other deep thing, you know. But check this. So government contracts is a big thing in the United States. right? So I thought to myself, well, I heard somebody say that black people don't really get a big chunk of that. So I thought to myself, I mean, what's new? So I went and checked it out for myself. So in the 2021 consensus, if you want to say it that way, or survey, or documentation, 77%, and we're talking of $559 billion in government contracts. 77% went to white people, or they had it white. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if that means white Americans, just white, I guess, in general. So 77% of $559 billion, 77% of that went to white. You don't have to look at the prison industrial complex and how disproportionate it is to realize the abuse and the thievery that occurs when it comes to the elevation of certain ethnic groups. What's mystic about that? It's almost like we're not allowed to speak about it. We're supposed to just accept it. And that occurs around the world. It's a global phenomenon, if you want to even call it that. But 77% white. Just about 14 to 15% is Hispanic. I think they use the word Hispanic. Right? 3.5% black. I'm not sure if that is black Africans in America, black African Americans, black West Indians, black, right? And about 2 point something percent Asian. Listen to the numbers. What was interesting is that there was no mention of Native Americans or indigenous, so I'm not sure what bracket that falls under, or if they have a total separate agreement where economics and finance is concerned. But when you look on the board, you realize that no matter where you go, it's always some kind of disadvantage for our people. And I can see how that disadvantage type of thing can separate us. The old saying, crab in a bucket or crab in a barrel. It is something created. Because if you're continuously denied, you know what I'm saying? Blessings to those who understand that the few wealthy, melanated people we have in this country, whether they're billionaires or have hundreds of millions, it is still not a lot of money. It is still not a lot because it's not spread out wide enough or evenly enough. And those people cannot affect a great change. They may be able to do it here and there in bits and pieces, but it's never like this blanket to really make a major dent in our struggle. You come to realize that this thing is deliberate, right? Throughout history, you have certain figures in history and they become the scapegoat. They become the iconic figure or the sacrifice, right? In Kanye's case, maybe in some events he kind of puts that on himself, and in some instances he seems erratic. But I don't know of anybody who is absolutely wrong. There's some truth in most things. There's some truth. But the one thing I never notice is that people never really speak on the truth of a matter. It doesn't matter if you have 99% truth, they will always harp on that 1% of whatever it is that bothers them, and that will ultimately overshadow everything else. You know what I'm saying? So every time you hear something about Kyrie Irving, you hear them bring up about the flat earth thing. You know, a lot of people can say whatever they say, but they are sometimes not in a position to really know a substantial amount of a thing to make that greater judgment. You know, sometimes seeing something from your perspective is not always good enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get into flat earth, but whoever's watched my videos may have heard me say that the trillions of gallons of water on the face of the earth, how is that maintained in position? They mention how fast the earth is moving through space, which is, I'm not sure of the exact figure, but it's a ridiculous figure. So basically, if the earth was to stop, everything would just fold into itself, I would imagine, from that type of speed. But how do you maintain? I'm specifically talking about water, because they say the earth is majority water, right? A lot like our bodies. I'm not even sure if that is true, you know. But how does it hold that body of water in place? Let's say you're literally on a beach. Whatever pressure against that water or gravitational effect on that water, how can it have the same effect on you as an individual within? And basically you're such a less dense thing. How does that work? You know what I'm saying? So there's still questions, and there's still a lot of things that cannot be answered. You know what I'm saying? Everybody say you look on the coastline, it's flat. You know, you're traveling on a flight. You know, basically the plane is not tipping its nose down. It is going straight across. So there's a lot, right? I think the reason why a lot of people, I'm not saying black people are totally against Kanye. Everybody admit that he makes great music. Some people even say genius. You know, I don't know. I don't really listen to Kanye's music. I've heard some songs and they're solid. You know what I'm saying? Solid vibes. An artist, a creative person, you know. But I think because of his decisions in who he decided to marry and to interact with and have children with, I think people have a cause for pause, and so maybe they don't get wrapped up too deeply into it. And the powers that be also see that, and you know, the powers that be always want to put certain people in their place. You know what I'm saying? So like in Kyrie Irving's situation, it's another case of shut up and dribble. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to make a mistake. You have to be perfect, or you should just focus on the game of basketball because that's what we pay you for. You know, it's like they want you to be robotic and stay on one level. You know, they want you to have a limited human experience. You know, we see it in all facets, just like, once again, how disproportionate it is where the legal system or the justice system is. You know, where that thing is concerned. You know, yeah, it appears like the laws are supposed to be for everyone, but for some reason, there's certain people that are affected differently than others. You know, so we know these things. You know, they create this thing about a cancel culture. Can someone really be cancelled? Depending on the determination of that person and who they really are. We can't allow a group of people to control the whole paradigm. If they say black people have soul, that means we are the rhythm. We are the life force of how things actually run. You know, whether it be our ingenuity or intuition or intelligence or akashic, you know, memories, whatever it is that we contribute, you know, that should be recognized as a great thing. Being that, you know, I get it. I understand why people may be offended by certain things, but once again, we can't be offended by truth. Something happened in ancient times. Something happened, right? Because they say that all people come out of black people, come out of Africa. But then they have different races. So what I think happened is those early people, of course, were inquisitive and they traveled the earth basically, right? And what I think happened is that these people that went away lived in a certain region for long periods. And when they returned to Africa, they were deficient in some things. You know, they may have gone up to the Caucasus Mountains, which is cold. And in those times, maybe things just happened so slowly that you were not able to keep up with people who were living in warmer climates where things were lush, the food was more nutrient rich, you know. So now when you begin to develop that thing of, you know, experimenting or finding or discovering, when you came forward, or when those people came forward, the people that were still in those regions, you know, who were advancing at a more steady pace, they realized that these people were deficient when they returned. They began to look different because of where they lived for certain periods. Their skin color changed because of the food they were eating and what they were exposed to in the environment. And what I think happened, or what I think conventional science tried to explain, is that they had to be educated. That they had to be taught how to wash themselves properly, what types of foods to eat. They had to be, you know, briefed on certain types of sciences, how certain things were done, what was found out within those long periods when they were gone. So they were brought back in. But what I think, you know, I think, like they say, water store memories, I think there was something inside of those people that saw themselves still as different, although they left long periods before and they were of those people. So when they came back, they kind of felt like They felt deficient. Nevertheless, they took what they could in terms of the knowledge, and they learned. And I think what happened was their heads became too big. And I think that is what has played out for a long period of time now. A kind of get back in their, whatever developed in their makeup, you know, a form of jealousy or envy, although it may not be played out outright. It is something about competing and proving that you're equal and worthy, but nobody ever denied other races. I'm talking about from the black melanated experience. I don't think that we ever had or took a position of we are better than. I think we took a position of let us get you up to speed. So when people of today hear this thing of other ethnic groups, I think they get offended by that when science, and even their science, says that that is what basically happened. You know, some people may say they were living in caves, they were eating uncooked flesh. You know what I'm saying? They beat their women over their head to mate, stuff like that. There was no, you know, there was nothing smooth about it, you know. So just like today, people try to act as if Africa is a sore. But Africa is a large place, and many things are happening, you know, with many different groups of people on many different levels. So you can't ever really forget that and kind of show one specific thing. Africa is so big that you can have a primitive tribe. Just like in South America, you still can have a primitive tribe. But you're not going to depict South Americans as inferior, because they have those tribes that are more what they would call today modern, or whatever the case may be. So when a Kanye come out and say certain things that are true, they label these things as offensive. You know, it's like we there's no problem if we put down our own, right? I never really understood the word anti-Semite or anti-Semitism. I never understood that word. You know, anti means against, yes, but semi means a half. And you know, we have the word. They don't say the Jew people, they say the Jewish. Kinda, sorta is what I get from that. You know, and then there are people saying that the original followers of Christ, right? Whether or not it's true or they created it themselves, the followers of Christ, original people, were woolly-haired people, people of certain regions where they were more melanated, from certain tribes. You see, the funny thing about this thing, look at Northern Africa. Those places are colonized. Look at Europe. Europe was colonized too. Because further across, going up into the Caucasus Mountains, you have to understand, melanated people, according to their science, and certain black historians too, black people really cover those areas. Just like the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? Iraq and Iran, where a lot of people are now saying that that's where some of the earliest Sumeria, the earliest things are being found. And people are saying that's where civilization started and so on and so forth. But those places were considered Africa. Even as far up to India. You know what I'm saying? So when you see this, you see so much time has passed that nobody really knows how these colonizations happen and the takeover And this is why you will see, you will go to Egypt, and an Egyptian would not be talking Egyptian, they will be talking Arabic. But they will turn around and tell you that this is their people's land. You see how it is? Because look at America. Let's just say North America. People don't really talk about the Native Americans, right? It's not like a big talking point. So let's say we stop talking about Native Americans for 1,000 years. People will just simply say that the people here are just American. You know why that is? This place they call the New World is only new to them. It is actually an old world. Because it is no more new than any other landmass. And we have been occupying and residing in these regions for longer than they know. But then populations change, things happen, because people are always moving. People are always looking forward to get ahead, you know. And I think that a certain group of people don't want people to realize how barbaric they were. Because if people begin to think that their ancestors were barbaric, they would begin to realize or think that that thing is something inside of them, just like how they judge us. Just like if your father was a murderer or a drug dealer, typically if they look at you, they're going to say to themselves, he has that thing in him too. You know, that is their fear. But it's funny how they never put the shoe on the other foot. You know, they are able to project these thoughts, but think that nobody else should project these thoughts. And that is unfair. So I hear Kyrie Irving talking about Yahweh. You see these histories of early Israelite affairs or early followers of Christ affairs. These things are only about 4,000 years. It's just like you have all types of different groups today with new names, right? And there's nothing new under the sun. But we kind of make those things prominent. You know, you have the Hebrew Israelites. But what did we call ourselves 10,000 years before that? And then 100,000 years before that? And then 1,000,000 years before that? You know? So I think in everybody's spiritual journey, I just have to come to the understanding of your own divinity. If you're a follower of Christ, you know, you can see Christ outside of yourself, but you can also see the divinity inside of yourself as Christ in you. And at any given time, you can step up and be Christ. You can step up and be Goddess, if you see what I'm saying. For the simple fact that man of righteousness is God in flesh, and woman of righteousness is Goddess in flesh. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to your actions of what you portray. You know? And what you portray is who you are and who you honor. You know what I'm saying? And within all that, no one is perfect. You know? So you're just a mystic. But yeah, our ability to shelter our own has been lost because of that trick of putting us under one governing body or one organization of law. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can generalize, but really and truly, we can't. Who treat everybody the same? You can treat everybody with love, but you can't deliver that love the same way. So when you have these laws, right? And of course, the laws are going to work against us more so than anyone else. But just the idea of having laws and trying to say that these laws are balanced and fair for everyone. Everybody's not the same. Everybody has not gone through the same traumas. You know, it's just like a child. Some children may be able to learn faster than others. Some may be able to learn in different ways. It's what tool you use to stimulate that child. And whatever resonates with that child is what the child is going to adapt to better and better learn. You know? So in Kanye's case, Kanye has enough money to do what he needs to do. I think he has to be more strategic in the way that he approaches his affairs. And everything does not have to be out in the media because you're already a popular person. And no individual can make so great of a difference. You see, we have this Christ complex. We're looking for an individual or individuals to be the one. Everybody wants to say, I am him. You know what I'm saying? They don't see that collective. You know, we don't have council members, you know, to distribute, you know what I'm saying, the weight evenly for us to make better choices for the benefit of the whole. You know. In Kyrie's case, Kyrie is in a good position. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can see the powers that be is always jabbing at us, digging us in our side while we are on the cross to see if we're still alive. You know what I'm saying? Always jabbing at us. You know, you go on YouTube and you see a lot of people saying this and that exposed. They talk about certain groups or cults or societies, and you can expose all you want, but on the way the construct is money is power. Presidents are still being assassinated around the world. All leaders are people who are able to do some things or have particular types of ideas who can influence. They get wiped out. These things still happen. War is still happening. Russia and Ukraine is proving that, and nobody really knows what they're fighting for. You could say it's land, or you can say that the US and the Ukraine are too close and the US is trying to ease closer towards Russia to pay attention to certain things, but nobody really knows the true secrets. We are kept out of that. We are left to squabble with minuscule things that can't really change or help us. And we make the biggest things out of it. You know what I'm saying? I was watching a program the other day. I might have mentioned it in another video, but apparently Russia has pulled out of whatever committee they have that monitors the Antarctica. If anybody ever watch anything about Antarctica, they're saying there's things beyond the ice. You know, there's stories of navigators either getting close or getting through and so on and so forth and coming back, and these things may be fiction or they may be non-fiction, but we are not even in a position to really know the truth. You know, we probably know less than what we think we know. You go on Google Earth and so many places are blotted out. You know what I'm saying? So many places are blotted out. Interestingly, some places is free access. You can pull right down to basically on top of somebody's house or area and see, clear as day. But those places are usually what they would consider third world. Like the powers that be have access to whatever they want to have access to. But they're able to hide whatever they want to hide. Some people are saying they've never been out of space. They've sent many rockets up, but they explode as soon as they hit that barrier, or what people call the dome. But when you go to Google Earth, you can circle around the whole planet. And you know how you can pull the camera down. So it looks round, but the further down you go, it begins to flatten out. You know? That curvature, but we know less than what we think we know. You know? I mean, you know, they call us sheep. You know? Or cattle, whatever we are. But certain things are kept from us, and we're distracted with certain things to keep our minds occupied. And in the meantime, the progression is slow, and we end up fighting against ourselves and not supporting or sheltering who we need to shelter. You know, I know they have a lot of groups, they want to achieve certain things. It shows good ambition, but really and truly, when those things are achieved, what is the 10-point plan for what's in the future? It always seems like it's about right here and now, which is good to a degree. But how much effort are you going to put into that? Because tomorrow is another day, and it can all come crashing down tomorrow. If the foundation is not strong enough, obviously these are basic things. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not in a position to speak like this. You know, I'm not a person of influence or have enough knowledge or whatever the case may be, but everybody has an opinion and has a right to say what they see and think and understand. And certain groups need to understand that nobody's going to please someone all the time, no matter how you may feel, because at the end of the day, a man can say whatever he says, but action is going to prove the real thing. Action is the real McCoy. You know? So while people are offended by what Ye is saying, you know, what about the actions that have been committed upon the melanated tribes, the colored tribes? What about those actions? It's not good enough for people to say that black people kill their own people, because that's not what we're dealing with. Because black people killing black people did not make anybody wealthy. But for other ethnic groups, what you took, the blood you took, the families you split, the resources you took, have made you so wealthy. And that is what we're focused on. That means you took more. And I'm not saying taking life is not a big thing, but there's certain groups that have taken life in megalithic proportions for thousands of years. Roman soldiers killed Christ, and they said Christ had woolly hair. Anytime you see a Christ movie, the Roman soldiers always have on their armor and their this and their that. That is to show that the colonization started a long time ago. Because at no time in those histories were Romans or Europeans more advanced than the melanated tribes around the planet. And obviously, you know, they say that the world has been reset so many times. There has been floods, there have been mud floods, water floods, there's been fire, meteorites, all sorts of things. I'm beginning to wonder if those things are our lies. Yeah, we can say that certain places were flooded, But what about the flood of man killing our people, different groups killing our people, and that flood of blood, the flood of that takeover, the flood of that disrespect for life, disrespect for the Creator's people? Or that original strand? You know, the funny thing, races have gone extinct, right? And let's talk about Neanderthals. And you know, they have a lot of other humanoid races that have gone extinct. And what I'm beginning to realize or to think is possible is that the makeup, the DNA of some of these things still exists within tribes of men today. And maybe the reason why they are extinct now is because they serve no more purpose on the planet. Maybe that makeup was for that time. And I'm not saying that evil can't exist in all men, because obviously it does. But there's some people on the face of the earth who totally and absolutely despise melanated people. And we just can't understand why. Why the hatred? We should not ask you how to be angry and how to express our anger, especially in this time. You people are not that big or that important. We should not have to apologize for feeling the way that we feel and expressing it how we want to express it. No matter if you say it's not you and it's your ancestors, we still feel the effects of that. The effects of that in many different ways. And we don't want to hear that, look, that black man over there is that wealthy or that successful. We don't want to hear it. We want to look at this system where you divide and rule, separate us in many ways, introduce us to all these fooleries, where religions are concerned, or philosophies, or certain types of entertainment. We don't want to hear your slack music anymore. If you're going to do business with us and you're going to be in charge of certain industries, we want to be represented with honor and righteousness. Not just things that is negative and will bring us down and cause us to be slow in our progression. We should not have to fear or worry about your fear of us being on top, because we know who we are. Slowly but surely it's happening. I know I don't care how you feel about what and who I am. And we should not. If we're going to work together, we work together. If not, we don't care how you feel. We have the Creator in us at the end of the day. Kanye is not totally wrong. Y'all should stop messing with Kyrie. He was right not to take the job, and it proved to be so. You know, y'all didn't even come and admit that, you know what, it was not such a bad idea to stand up as a man. Y'all still are jabbing and trying to find things. Nobody's perfect. My thing is, why should melanated people always be up on the cross? You know? And then you people will turn around and say, no, we did not crucify him. Do you know who did? You know what I'm saying? But we are the original, and we will never forget that. And we're not saying that we're better than you, but due to our Akashic records, our Akashic makeup, you people should better listen and respect what we have to offer. We introduce civilization. Seeing? No matter how you feel about it, love and honor.